Do you remember when everything changed? A couple of years ago, COVID hit. What a shock to the world. Businesses shut down, the way of life changed. The dominoes have been rippling ever since then. Today, we talk about inflation and the great resignation and supply chain and all these things that have come out of this whole massive disruption. A couple of weeks ago, we had a training class, and a lady in the class, we were talking about the cost of replacing somebody because of turnover, which is a huge issue right now. And I mentioned to the group that Gallup estimates that the cost to replace somebody is between 50% and 200% of salary. And the lady in the class was in the pest control industry. And I said, what do people in pest control make in your experience? And she said, well, between 60,000 and 150,000 a year. And I said, wow. And I said, well, do the Gallup numbers seem about right? And she thought for a second and she said, yes, they do. And I said, well, what do you think the replacement cost is in your industry? And she said, $60,000. And then I started talking again. And then she said, wait, Tom, that's not the big news. The big news is in 2021, we started the year with 100 employees. In 2022, we started the year with 100 employees, but only 37 were the same. I couldn't believe it. I was mind blown. It was they had replaced 63 people, and at the average that she said of $60,000 each, that's almost 3.7 million. And I started to dig in. What does that mean? And she said, well, we got to advertise. We got to interviews. We got to make the job offer. We got to onboard and train. We've got to shadow them. It takes 3 to 6 months before they're breaking even for us as they learn their territory and how to grow it. And then it takes another 6 months or so for them to really hit their stride. And in the meantime, we're either turning down business because we don't have the ability to support it, or we're paying people overtime. So my question to you is, as you're listening to this and you're watching this, have you seen that type of massive disruption in your own business? And have you seen it out there with your friends and people that you do life with? Well, I want to tell you that I believe there is an answer to this massive disruption in business. And that is, we need a new type of leader, what I call the coach leader. And I want to first show you some statistics. JobSage did a survey of over 2,000 people. And what they discovered is that in the last 2 years, 28% of the people they surveyed had quit their job for mental health reasons. Think about that. That's a little bit more than 1 in 4 people quit their job. Now, talk about massive disruption. If you're a leader, if you're a business owner, if you're trying to hold together and create a business that grows and scales, there's nothing more disruptive than losing good people. And so in this JobSage survey, they went a little deeper and they discovered that 55% of the people who said mental health said that stress and burnout was a contributing factor. 55%. 38% said depression. 37% said lack of motivation. And so if we're going to build a profitable business that scales, that grows, that solves our customers' problems, that creates a future for everyone on our team, then we've got to figure out, how do we keep people? So let's break down very quickly and then talk about the solution. When we talk about stress and burnout is 55% of people, that's why they quit. Or a leading indicator. What's the antidote to that? Well, I can tell you, it's quality of life. In the last 2 years, people have made quality of life their priority. They've realized that life is uncertain. They've lost family and friends. And not only that, they have taken stock and they want to make sure that what they do matters. And so quality of life is where it starts, in their mental, in their spiritual, in their physical, in their family, in their financial, their personal, and their career. And so as a leader, and what I call a coach leader, are you focused on the quality of life of your people? Do you, on a regular basis, have conversations with people on your team one-on-one and say, hey, how's it going at home? How's your health? How are your finances? How are you handling it mentally? Or do you enjoy what you're doing? Is the stress and burnout too much? Because here's the reality. If mentally people are solid, if they've got peace of mind and good virtues that they live by and a good spiritual foundation, and they have great physical health. In other words, they're eating and sleeping right, and they're getting movement and exercise, and they have great family relationships. They have a financial plan and a budget and a little bit of security. And personally, they build energy in their own life. If all those things are true, the likelihood of them having stress and burnout on the job that causes them to leave is very, very low. They might leave for toxic reasons, but if somebody's overall life is solid, if the quality of life is there, that's not a threat. The second reason in that job stage survey was depression. Well, my friend, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, says this: the opposite of depression is not happiness. The opposite of depression is purpose. And so what do coach leaders do, which is what I call a leader who is perfectly prepared and positioned to lead in disruptive times? Coach leaders constantly share the mission, the vision, the values, the virtues of the organization, the purpose, the problem that it solves. Why? Because this attracts top performers. And people who work for a business that has a cause bigger than themselves, they are more likely to stay engaged and passionate about what they do. But coach leaders take it one step further, and that's this. They meet with each person one-on-one, and they ask them, hey, what is your purpose? What's your why? What's your dream? What's your goal? What is it you want to accomplish? And how can doing well on the job here help you get closer to your dreams? You see, they create something called dream alignment. And that is this: when the purpose of the individual, the dreams of the individual align with the success of the organization, that's a powerful combination. And then remember the third thing in the job stage, 37% leave because, or quit mental health reasons because of lack of motivation. They just don't have the gumption, the fire inside anymore. So what is the antidote to that? Goals and growth. You see, coach leaders understand that if somebody's growing, if they're learning, if they're becoming a more capable person tomorrow than they are today, because of their development and their attitude, effort, and skills, because of the things that they're reading and learning and practicing and pouring into, and they have goals that match their growth, right? They're improving themselves and attaining milestones along the way. That growth and goals, that creates internal motivation. And coach leaders tap into this. And so let's look at a couple of areas that coach leaders excel in. The first one is they understand mindset. A great example of a coach leader mindset was demonstrated by Tom Watson. Tom Watson is a professional golfer, one of the greatest of all times. In fact, he won 8 majors in his career. 5 of them were British Opens. And they were interviewing him one time, and they said, Tom, you've won 8 majors and 5 British Opens. How did you win so many British Opens? And Tom looked at him and said, oh, that's easy, bad weather. And they said, what do you mean? And they said, Tom answered this way. He said, when I'm playing at my best, and this is when he was an elite golfer in his prime, he said, when I'm playing well, out of 150 people in the field, I only have to beat 20 of them. But then he said this, but when the weather's bad, I only have to beat 5 of them. And the British Open is notorious for bad weather. It rains sideways, it'll sleet, it'll hail. The wind will go like crazy. It might have a 40-degree temperature change in one day. So he rose to the top when the weather was bad. And so they asked him, well, how do you prepare for the British Open? And he said this, I pray for rain. And so this is what coach leaders understand, that disruption hits us all. But if we build an organization and a team based on growth and learning, then we relish disruption, because disruption gives us a strategic advantage, because our ability to grow and learn and solve problems isn't based on what we already know. It's based on our ability to adapt and adjust and to let other people fall by the wayside. Another key element, and this is what I'm going to close with, is you've got to have the right model. The coach leadership model is a perfect example of how we can grow and develop our team. In the coach leadership model, there's 2 words at the center of it. And those 2 words are autonomy and authority. Autonomy stands for this. This is what people want today. They want flexibility. All the press and all the news about hybrid or remote work, what it's really saying is people want to work where they want to, when they want to, from where they want to, how long they want to. In other words, they now want to be compensated based on their contribution. They want to be compensated based on outcomes, not outputs, and they want the flexibility to do it on their own. That's autonomy. But in leadership, if we're leading a team or a business, we're an authority, and we've got to get everybody working together. And with all the change and disruption, when we have Zoom meetings and things like that, and collaboration, all these things become more difficult. How do we get everybody on the same page? Well, it starts with understanding the next two words on each side. So on the autonomy side, which is on the team member side, there's two types of team members. One's purpose driven, one's pleasure driven. And I'll use a couple of caricatures to make it really simple. The pleasure driven team member, the one that we stay away from, is what we call the zombie. They're just going through the motions. Their only goal is to keep their job. They only want to do enough to keep their paycheck. They're not engaged. They're doing what they have to do, but no more. They don't invest, and they make decisions based on pleasure, what's in it for them. So they might not show up. They might not get it done on time. They're not going to contribute, especially if it brings more scrutiny and work. On the other side of the team member side, we have the top performer. The top performer is purpose driven. You see, they have a bigger goal or dream in their life. Their goal is to be more capable tomorrow than they are today. They live by vision and virtues. Virtues is simply the way they treat other people and the way they want to be treated. Their career, their job is a stepping stone on the journey to where they want to go. And they know that the better they do in their job, the faster they get their dreams. Okay, on the other side of autonomy and authority, on the authority side, there's two types of leaders. There's the control leader and the accountability leader. Now, the control leader, this is the old school top down, do it because I said so. The dictator, we call this leader, the caricature there is the T-Rex, right? Sharp teeth and short arms, right? Sharp teeth because they lead out of fear and they bite people's heads off. They tell people what to do. They don't ask them. And they're all about control. And the more things get out of control, the more control they want. So the short arms are about bringing the control in. Now, here's the problem. In the old days, when everybody worked together in an office, a T-Rex or top-down command and control leader, if they were otherwise well-liked and maybe their style was a little rough, but they had trust among the team, the teammates, the people on the team would fill in the blanks. They would say, oh, that person, he didn't mean that. And she looks at it this way. And so they would fill in the gaps. But when you're leading on a camera, you can't tell people what to do. They get offended. And plus they're wanting to work for a purpose and a cause, and they want to be heard. And so the T-Rex, as you can imagine, is going extinct. And so now we have what I call the leader for times of disruption. Better in a completely remote environment, a hybrid environment, or a headquarters environment. So it doesn't matter what your business structure is. The type of leader that you want to become is a coach leader. And the coach leader, they're all about asking the right questions. They are all about vision and virtues. You see coach leaders work with each team member on their team one-on-one, and they say, here are the visions and virtues of the company. This is what we stand for. Here's the mission we're going to go out and complete. And I'm so grateful for you're on the team. How can I help you become more effectively? And then through engagement and questions and this collaboration and co-creation, coach leaders create an environment of accountability. So how does that work? The coach leader says to them, hey, what are your goals? And who do you need to become? What skills do you need to develop? What attitudes do you need to develop in yourself and demonstrate? What efforts do you need to put into play? What actions do you need to take in order to reach your goals? And by asking the question, the team member, the top performer, takes ownership of those answers. And the coach leader co-creates the plan. And once the top performer has the plan written out, the coach leader asks a very simple question. They say, wow, that's a fantastic plan you have there. Is it okay if I hold you accountable to your goals? You see that ownership that transfers to that position? It's an amazing thing. You see, because when people take ownership of their future, they're far more likely to follow through with it. And when the top performer takes ownership of their own goals, the ability for them to follow through goes way up. You see, because when people own the creation of what they do, it changes everything. After all, ask yourself this question. Would you rather be told what to do, or would you rather be asked, what do you think is the best way to do this? And you see, when you're asked, how should I do it? It reveals to the coach leader whether you are aware of your situation and you know what you need to do. And so the coach leader can give as much input as necessary. But in this co-creation and collaboration of the plan, that's where everything changes. And so I want to encourage you to become a coach leader. The last aspect of coach leadership is the 10 virtues. Coach leaders walk out the 10 virtues. So what do I mean by that? Everybody tells you, hey, you need to love your people. You need to have empathy with your people. Just show them your love. But then nobody shows you how to love your people. Coach leaders know that when you walk out the 10 virtues like humility and respect and kindness, when you start to walk out these virtues, it changes the relationship with your people, which reminds me of a story. I was coaching someone one-on-one, and this person was very successful, early 30s, multimillionaire. And they looked at me and they said, Tom, you know what? I think I want to get married. And I said, well, that's awesome. And then he said, but I think I should start dating first. And I said to him, well, yeah, that's a good plan. We both kind of chuckled. And then I said, well, tell me more about it. And he said, well, I haven't dated since I was a teenager. It's been 17 years. I said, well, do you have a list of the person you'd like to marry? And of course, he pulled out the list and he started going down the list. Oh, they're going to be fun. They're going to be adventuresome. They're going to be athletic. They're going to be smart, compassionate, kind, loving, loyal, all these different characteristics, right? Great sense of humor. And then he stopped after about 20 of them and he said, I've just described a unicorn. They don't exist. And we laughed again. And then he said, how do you catch a unicorn? And I said to him, oh, well, it's not easy, but you can catch them. He said, how? And I said, well, you know that list that you wrote down of the person that you want to attract? He said, yeah. I said, well, now write down another list of the virtues and character qualities that you need to develop in yourself in order to attract that person. And he got a big smile. And so as you think about your own leadership and becoming a coach leader, just remember that the way you attract top performers to your team is you demonstrate visibly the virtues that attract those people. And if you understand the mindset and the model and the reality that you got to work one-on-one with each person there in order to help them become more capable tomorrow than they are today around goals and growth focused coaching conversations, then you're building a company and a team that thrives in disruption.